And there's a few of us in the back of that truck going up a dirt road in the northern range, which is the mountainous area of Trinidad. And we're looking roughly at a landscape similar to this one. So it's pretty awesome, don't you think? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wouldn't mind being there right now if it wasn't, being with you. And so we're going up that dirt road. It's really rocky, and we're looking down on the right. There's a ravine, a river going down, and a few people having a barbecue. They're Trini Indians. They're playing soca music, and they're making some curry. And then so we pass them, and we go further up to reach the house and the farm of someone called Martin. And Martin is a farmer, and Martin lives in the Lopino Valley, where we're going to do some filming, because we're actually a crew, and the whole idea was to film a music tradition called parang that was set in the cocoa estates and in the country in Trinidad. So we arrived there, and he's got this house over there, and we are set to film cacao dancing. Have you ever heard of dancing cacao? No? Right. So, basically, what you do, I was told to put the camera down because I was filming and to do a bit of work. And the whole idea was for me to learn how to dance cacao. So what you actually do is that this man is gathering some dried cacao beans. So the beans would have been dried to the sunshine after being fermented. And you've got this roof that slides in and out, so it slides out to get the sun to dry the cacao. And then when the rain comes, or during the evening or the night, you pull the roof, to cover it so that it's protected. And so you do that a couple of times until your cacao is dried. And once the cacao is dried, then, that's the fun bit, you actually dance it. So traditionally, what you do is that you get, very important, that's the most important thing, you get your rum out. And then you put your stereo, or a little radio on, and you get some parang music, which is a traditional folk music song tradition, which is originally what I was there to do and film. And then you dance the cacao. Now, dancing the cacao is an art. So it requires that you take off your shoes. I don't have cacao, so don't worry. You're not going to take off your shoes. And you, bare feet, you actually move your feet in the cacao beans, right? So the idea is that you roll your feet so that the beans roll under your feet. So you can imagine how tricky that might be. So you just go like that in the beginning. It's sticky, and you've got beans in between your toes. That's just not very nice. So you just get, 1-2 gulps of rum. That does help a lot. And then you're being told that you just go smoothly, don't be so white and French. So then move your hips, Sophia. So you just start and go and just go, that's quite nice actually. And you can go on for as long as the rum flows. So it actually goes like this.
The sound is going to be...
Help.
Hang on. Yeah. I don't know if that's going to...
Connected to Tim's MacBook Pro.
There we go. You have to click it again.
Where? Just this?
Yeah. There you go. There you go.
Parang was born both in Venezuela and Trinidad, in the countryside where cocoa was cultivated. It survived in the plantations during the English colonization and has been fed since then by the several migrations of cocoa workers coming from mainland Venezuela. Trinidad was a Spanish colony throughout the 16th century. The population was quite sparse, but the Spanish culture and influence was strong, especially in the cocoa plantations controlled by the missionaries. People argue that parang was born after this, through the various migrations from Venezuela into Trinidad in the 19th century. Venezuela was facing a lot of political unrest, and it was then that cocoa workers migrated en masse to Trinidad with their families and their parang. probable that the most recent migrations from Venezuela revived this old tradition, originally born from a mix of Spanish, Amerindian, and African culture. But whether it comes from Trinidad or Venezuela first does not really matter.
Right, so you get a sense of what dancing the cacao is, but this is through being exposed to filming, that I actually started to understand what it was, that cacao and chocolate making is actually a craft. And it had to be done, it was done traditionally, a certain way, and this is only part of how it was done. That's the fun bit. After dancing the cacao, then we got to try it. So what happens is that once you've got these cacao beans dried and danced, basically cleaned from the dried skin around it, what they do, they pound it in mortar and add spices. So you add cinnamon, vanilla, cardamom, basil, sweet basil, or laurel. And once this is reduced to some kind of powder, you put hot water on it. And it melts and becomes this black elixir, rich and really powerful to the nose. And you can add also milk, you can add honey, you can add sugar, whatever you want. But the point we were sitting just behind this cocoa house. And I had for the first time in my life the experience of what chocolate was. It was made of cacao. And so it was quite a revelation. So when I came back to Europe, I thought, let me try to figure out how to give that flavor back and just share it, because when I went to the supermarket, that was a total other experience. You know, you get the bars, you turn them, and you see a list of ingredients that you don't recognize, and just wonder where the cacao is. So would you like to try what came out of this journey? Chocolate. Right. Okay. Well, you probably will have to help me with that. This is the original. Yeah, I mean, if
this
you...
side?
Yes. And some of you are going to have the honey and bee pollen. I can't see much. Just going to let you pass it on. This is honey and bee pollen. And original. We just leave the rose for later. Yeah? Okay, so I'm going to let you pass it on. Yeah, so that everyone can have a taste of it. What do you think? Is it something you've had before? Or yeah?
Chocolate.
The taste of chocolate. Taste of cacao, isn't it? Yeah.
I make real.
You make raw chocolate. Okay, brilliant. So you've had the experience of cacao from those places before. Yeah. Okay, brilliant. So basically, what I'm very passionate about is, to me, cacao is for chocolate what grapes are for wine. I mean, what the question I ask people sometimes is, how would you feel if you discovered that your wine was made of 30% of grapes? I would be fuming, wouldn't you? Well, I mean, well, maybe, yeah. Wouldn't drive you crazy?
No, I've made my own, and so I know it's about that kind of scale.
There you go, yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy, isn't it?
No, it's very cheap.
Is it good?
Yeah, it's pretty good, yeah. I made wine for many years.
But you made it with 30% of grape?
Even less sometimes, yeah.
You are joking.
No, it's very poor.
Wow, okay.
It was good.
It was good.
It was
Where is it? I'd like to taste it.
long gone, none here now.
Okay.
But lots of fakery.
Well, I'm afraid you know, as far as chocolate is concerned, I really believe that we should have a bit more cacao to just get the real flavor. Otherwise, I think it would just, shouldn't call it chocolate, should we? So part of, you know, the exploration and looking into what real chocolate is the craftsmanship. How do you make this beautiful elixir and bring it back here? Well, there's a process called, fermentation, which is really key in the making of bean to bar chocolate. So once you've got your, you harvest your cacao, and usually the harvesting cacao takes place in very specific geographical areas all around the globe. It's 20 degrees north and south of the equator. So you can find cacao from Latin America, where it was first discovered, and when it came first. It's where, you know, cacao was born, right all the way to Papua New Guinea and to Vietnam. So once you've got your cacao beans from the cacao tree, you harvest it and you ferment it, and that takes between 4 to 7 days, depending on the variety of the cacao, on, you know, how big the bean is, how the climate, what the climate conditions are. If there's a lot of rain, then you might need to ferment longer. If there's not that much, then you would have less fermentation. Now the key process, you know, the fermentation means that you get rid of the astringency. I mean, you might have noticed that in some chocolate, you feel this taste, you know, we think it's bitterness, but actually most of the time it's quite astringent, and it's masked by a lot of vanillin, which is a flavor that in Europe we all recognize and allows us to just go back, you know, gives us the impression that we love that chocolate because we recognize it, it's familiar. I go to Lynn because I know what I'm going to get. This is the flavor that I get all the time. Well, with cacao, if you look at cacao as a fruit, then every time you make chocolate, you know, you should actually get a different flavor, different harvest, different time of the year. You've got 2 or 3 harvests in cacao. You've got one in June, you've got one in November, you've got some in February, with different climate conditions, different trees, so you've got different notes. You know, some of them can be very flowery, some of them can be nutty. I had a chocolate that was very citrusy, and not because you put flavors in it, it's just because the tree gave birth to those beans, and the fermentation was done in a way that it led, you know, the beans to flower, and then the drying and the roasting just allowed that to come forward and give this very, very specific taste to that specific chocolate. So you don't necessarily have to put flavors in your chocolate to have a very good chocolate, but you can actually do and make real chocolate, single estate, single harvest dark chocolate. Now just I would like you to have a little taster to give you an idea of what is 100% chocolate, which is, I've got cacao nibs. Does anyone know what cacao nibs are? No? Well, it's basically the cacao that's been fermented, dried, and roasted. Once it's roasted, it's cut into pieces, and it's just become nowadays a superfood. Do you want to try this?
Do you want to pass it around, Sophie?
Yeah,
Let them pass
it. You pass it around. Yeah. Okay. So it's what's called 100%, you know, cacao and chocolate. And just to finish, because I'm terrible with timing, as you figured out, it's already my time is already up. It's already up. So just to give you an idea, well, that's inevitable. I have to go back to that because cacao hunting is really dangerous, especially for the cacao and the people around you. But that is what a cocoa pod is. So you get it from the tree, like you do, and you break it open, and you've got between 30 to 40 seeds coated in what's called a massillage, which is a white flesh. And that white flesh is transforming with the heat. It helps with the fermentation and transform the yeast into ethanol to just allow the fermentation process to take place. So this is the kind of landscape that you're looking at. So it's very tropical, lovely, warm, and you've got little animals like snakes and mabipies and wild meat. So that's the cacao flower. I've never seen a cacao flower before. It's completely very delicate, and this is from those flowers that cocoa pots actually are born. So this is why, with climate change we're having big issues, because if the flowers start to bloom and you have torrential rain, then they wipe out those flowers, and we've got an issue with cacao because the cacao can't grow if those flowers don't survive. These are cocoa pots. It's incredible the array of colors that you have. That's another. And this is roasted cacao. So basically, what you are trying is this cut into pieces. Now, the chocolate that we make at the C Note uses exactly those nibs that you have, and those nibs come from central Trinidad, Grand Cuva, which is the equivalent to cacao in the West Indies, to roughly what the Champagne region is to France. So it's got a very it's got a lot of recognitions within the world of chocolatiers. It's a good Trinitario cacao, and I mix it, and I don't cook it over 42 degrees, but I mix these roasted beans with some cacao butter and some with coconut sugar. And this is what you experience with the chocolate that you had in the first place. There's nothing more than cacao and coconut sugar. With the honey and bee pollen, you've got essential oil of honey and organic bee pollen. And with, what did you have? There's rose, essential oil of risotto from Iran. So it doesn't have to be complicated, really. It's just a question of integrity and keeping the integrity of the product and respecting, all throughout the process. Now, this is not easy because, fermenting is an art. Chocolate making and bean to bar is a craft, and it has to be a passion. So let me show you a few things, because it's Valentine's time. So we've got those golden hearts covered in 23 karat gold leaf, 72%, 75% dark chocolate. And those little ones, which are the babies that you've just tried, with different flavors, cherry, lime, black pepper, rosemary, sea salt, and a few others. So hopefully I got you impressed and curious into trying a bit more chocolate. That's me.
Fabulous, right. Sophie, now does anyone have any questions for Sophie? Does anyone have any questions?
Do you sell this chocolate?
Do you sell them? Yes.
Yeah. I mean, you've got some samples. Sorry, you've got some samples over there if you want to have a look. And yes, there's a website. I think you have a little card on your seat. Or I'm happy to give you some information.
Thank you.
Any other? Yeah. Just a bit. Yeah.
Do you have any idea why they add soy lecithin to chocolate? Because I think it destroys the chocolate completely, and it's in almost every chocolate. Do you know why it's used?
What was that? Soya?
Soya lecithin. It's like a soya waste product.
It's lecithin soya. Yeah, it's a conservative.
But why is that? Why
Because what happens with with chocolate making, there's a process called tempering. So a lot. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not a rose chocolate specialist. But what people call raw chocolate, that's another discussion. I can spend hours talking about raw chocolate, so I won't get into it. But in a lot of what's called raw chocolate, you can feel the texture is a little bit grainy sometimes, a bit raw, rough. well, it hasn't been tempered. Now, the tempering process has been used in Europe for the longest while. This is what keeps your chocolate shiny and snappy, and where it helps with the texture is smooth. Now, what it does is that it brings all the crystals of the cacao and the sugar together, basically. It's a chemical process through which all of this speak to each other and they just make sense with each other, basically, and give that texture that is really nice to the palate. Now with time, you have to keep this chocolate between 16 and 21 degrees, and you can't have too much humidity. So it's not an easy thing, and through time, those crystals just get loose and get out of temper. Now the lecithin helps with that. So I don't know if you've seen, I mean, some chocolate, well, some candies with a little bit of cacao in it, and sometimes it's just really difficult to get them to melt. It's because they've put a lot of preservatives and conservatives to actually get it to stay and to have a longer shelf life.
So is it in all chocolate, and is it a good thing or a bad thing?
You know, the great chocolatiers, if you look at all the big chocolatiers in the world, they use lecithin, soya lecithin.
Okay.
I don't know that it's a bad thing. What I do know is that I don't use it.
Okay. There we go. So soy lecithin free chocolate with.
Oh yeah, there's no preservative.
There we are.
No child labour, no sugar cane.
That was what we wanted to hear. That was definitely. So there was a question here.
Yeah, I couldn't understand. Well, I didn't understand what you were doing, the walking, the dancing.
Okay.
Or was that to get rid of the material that was left on the beans after they'd been picked, after they'd had the coating removed?
So this is not being done. Well, you can see that it's not very productive. You need a lot of rum and a lot of time and a lot of things. But the reason why it was done is because once you have you've seen the mucilage, the fresh flesh around the cacao, right? That, when it's fermented, that gets a little sticky around the bean. When it's dried, it dries, but it stays stuck around the cocoa bean. And that you don't really need because it's a skin, it's dry skin. So, dancing the cacao
Knocks it off.
knocks it out and makes the bean also very shiny. So when the farmers were selling it, it was much more attractive to the eye as well.
And it links into the grape and the wine process, doesn't it, in terms of crushing grapes?
Absolutely. I mean, this is
it's a lovely thing. Any other questions for Sophie? Any other chocolate questions? You just want to sort of take the chocolate and eat the chocolate, and that's it's wonderful chocolate. Are there any more questions? Any more chocolate-based questions? I think you've got some. Have you got some samples that we can get from you, buy from you?
There's a selection if you want to have a look in between speakers. I mean, you're very welcome, and if you want to ask any question about chocolate,
Fabulous. Well, can we thank Sophie again?